Welcome to the greatest footage ever found, an investigative documentary series exploring the mysterious disappearance of movie podcasters David Scandura and Justus Burkitt. I'm your host, Charlie Anwar. As I've been investigating this case, I wanted to learn more about the history of David and Justus's podcast, to see if their show was harboring any secrets which might explain the mysterious events surrounding its final episode. With this in mind, I reached out to some previous guests of the greatest movie ever made. The first guest I spoke to was Tony Moschetti, who appeared on their episode covering... Hold on, what is this movie called again? Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight, Part 2. Never heard of it. I asked Tony about his experience on the greatest movie ever made.
So anyways, yeah, this guy, Justus, who I knew back in college, kind of, and this, teenager that I met once named David, I guess they had this show, and they asked me to be on it, and I was going to be like, no, I haven't talked to either of you people in 11 years, but then I was like, oh, it's about movies, maybe I can talk about Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight, Part 2. Not Part 1, Part 1 is fine, it's an okay movie, but they said I could talk as much as I wanted about Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight, Part 2, so I took them up on their offer, and we talked for about 3.5 hours. Have you guys seen Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight, Part 2? If you haven't, I'm not surprised, but it's a Polish slasher movie on Netflix, and the first one is on there too, Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight, but it's a different movie, okay? You don't have to watch the first one to get the second one, and you want to ignore any reviews that might be out there on Letterboxd or IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. Don't bother with Wikipedia, because no one has written a page about it yet, but you just got to go in there clean, okay? Make your own opinion, because it's really interesting. It's actually really thought-provoking what it's doing. You got to go in clean with it, though. Sorry, I forgot what your question was. Oh, right, yeah, the podcast guys. Well, they said I could come back sometime to talk about Maniac Cop, and I've been messaging them like, when's my episode? Come on, let's do it. I want to talk about it. And I thought they were just ghosting me, but what? They, disappeared under mysterious circumstances? I mean, that sucks. Who's gonna let me talk about Maniac Cop now? R.I.P. to Javid and Justus, so. Do you guys want to talk about Maniac Cop? Because even though it's more mainstream than Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Part 2, it's actually really interesting what...
After speaking to Tony, the mystery only seemed to deepen. Why would 3 men in their 30s spend their Saturday talking about a poorly regarded niche Polish horror film? Something wasn't adding up here. I turned back to the recordings of the greatest movie ever made's final episodes for answers. This is what I heard.
I'm David Scandura.
I'm Justus Burkitt.
And today we're here to find out, is Gonjiam Haunted Asylum the greatest movie ever made?
여기 이렇게 살자라고 쓰여져 있네요. 오, scary.
Welcome to the greatest movie ever made, the show where we watch a movie and tell you if it's the greatest movie ever made. I knew you were going to do that because you do not speak Korean.
I could have also gone Charlotte. I love when she says her name and she just says it. Charlotte has swag in this movie. She's she seems very cool to me. And I think part of her character is she's kind of a cool girl, but she's also supposed to maybe be sort of annoying. I saw the movie telling me that I was maybe supposed to find her a little annoying and influencery and grating. Didn't actually find her grating. Thought she was delightful. When they're doing their little camera check-ins and they're all saying their names and it cuts to her and she just goes, Charlotte. I was like, that's my girl. I also love when she's tagging her name on the wall and just fucking nonchalantly chucks that spray paint can over her shoulder. I was like, really baller move.
Yeah, in general, I enjoyed this group of doomed teenagers more so than As Above, So Below.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the fact that, partially because of the language barrier, and I didn't have a good way to, determine who is who and distinguish them from another.
Right.
They don't have tons of distinct personalities, except for Charlotte,
Yes.
who, does rock.
I would argue that Ji-hyun, apologies for my Korean pronunciations,
And
listeners.
apply that to the entirety of this episode.
I think Ji-hyun had like another one who had a pretty distinct personality, because she's the girl who's like wearing the ball cap most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who goes when she gets possessed. And I was like, she seemed to have like a very distinct personality to me, where she's kind of like irreverent and goofy, and they kind of were giving her this like skate park girl thing. She's also the one who puts the GoPro on her middle finger and says, "This is for the fuck you mentary." Which I thought was so funny. And then the other one who I was like, oh yeah, this guy I definitely feel like is a distinct character, is Jae-yoon, who sucks. That's that guy's character. He sucks. He's the guy who keeps telling the nursing student that she should go home. And I was like, this guy's a fucking bitch. And then they're all making fun of him while he's taking a piss. Anyway. Sorry, just talked a bunch about the movie before we even
our intros lately have been really all over the place.
Yeah.
That's partially my fault, because I will occasionally lapse into a Star Wars character accent. This is the greatest movie ever made, the show where we watch a movie and tell you if it's the greatest movie ever made. A movie that is so thoroughly entertaining and compelling that while you're watching it is the only thing that matters in the world. I'm David Scandura, joined as always by my co-host and haunted ping pong ball, Justus Burkitt.
Is that a bald joke?
No, that was just what it came to mind.
We're both bald now.
We're both bald now. I did lose my hair.
Yes.
And am quite enjoying the bald life.
It's
other
good.
than like having to shave it every week, which is still a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah. It's looking good on you, by the way. It's a good look. You're really rocking the look.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. We're here to continue Shaky Cam Summer Camp 2024. We have my second pick in our roster of found footage films that we are covering, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, a movie that neither of us had seen before.
Yeah, but we had both heard about it beforehand, and I think I had actually put it on our episode ideas list because it had been one that I'd been planning to watch and hadn't found a reason to yet.
Yeah. Yep. And here we go. Here's the reason. The reason is Shaky Cam Summer Camp.
Yeah.
David, how are you doing before we talk about Gonjiam?
I'm doing pretty good. A little tired, but I took some time off finally.
Nice.
I used some of my time this morning to clean the house a little bit, but relaxing, enjoying life. Went to the movies last night with a couple members of the cast of Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
And we saw A Quiet Place Day 1.
Yes, the prequel.
The prequel, yes. And because it's not going to be in like my top 5 movies of the year, I figure I'll just use the opportunity to talk about it now and recommend it.
Sure.
It's directed by Michael Sarnowski, who directed Pig, one of my favorite movies of the past decade and all time. And was really interested to see what he would do with this. I do like the other Quiet Place movies, but I've only seen them once. And I am happy to report that it is a Michael Sarnowski film through and through.
Hell yeah.
Whatever that means. He brought on the same cinematographer that he used with Pig, so this movie looks gorgeous.
Nice.
And is shot in what seems to be a lot of natural light. And it injects the same kind of compassion and love and, stories about human connection that he was all over Pig.
Yeah.
He injects that into the goofy sci-fi aliens movie where they kill you because they can hear you.
Because they have super hearing, yes.
And it's really sweet and really good. I will say
Nice.
that some of the horror elements aren't working as well for me here as they did in the other ones, and I don't know if it's just like the premise has kind of played itself out.
Yeah.
But it's entertaining.
Mhm.
And there's a few too many like leaps in logic, but again, I think Sarnowski's direction was great, and Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn are both really good in their roles in the film, and I think it's time that we give Sarnowski a blank check and just let him do his own thing.
Yes, let him not just make a prequel to an existing horror property, but just make whatever weird shit he wants. Yeah.
And I guess John Krasinski Jim Office.
Yes.
Who did this whole franchise, did intentionally pick Sarnowski based on Pig.
Oh, cool.
And brought him on to both write and direct the film. So
Yeah.
it definitely doesn't have the impression of like an indie director making a studio film with a gun to their head.
Right. It was like, yeah, no, you were tapped specifically for this because like the producer and creator of this property was like a fan of your work, which is like, you know, it's still kind of a studio for hire job, but like the best version of that. It sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
Cool.
How are you doing?
I'm, you know, I've been better. My brain is weird and bad, and I have been somewhat stressed. However, I am fine. So we're gonna go with fine this week. For media recommendations, I would say if you've been thinking about getting a tattoo and you haven't gotten a tattoo, get a tattoo. That's my media recommendation. Getting a tattoo is it's fun. It hurts. Anyone who tells you that it doesn't hurt is lying to you. However, if you're able to push through the pain, I think it's a very rewarding experience, and you end up with some beautiful artwork on your body. Get a tattoo.
Yes, I second that. I have one. I got one last year.
Yeah.
And I should get another one, but money is a thing that I have to deal with in my life.
That's true. I should clarify, if you're financially able to as well, get a tattoo, because they are quite expensive.
But I know plenty of people who just get tattoos anyway and don't care.
Just definitely don't underspend on it, because then you're probably not going somewhere reputable, and you really want to make sure that you're giving someone who's not going to give you an infection your money.
there's nothing to turn you off from the idea of getting a tattoo than getting a bad first tattoo.
Yeah, that's true. Although most first tattoos, among heavily tattooed people that I know, most of them don't have an amazing first tattoo. You have a very good first tattoo.
Mine fucking rocks.
That's kind of like a rarity, though. Most people's first tattoo is kind of like whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But you really knocked it out of the park with your first one. I think it helps that you didn't get it at like 19. You like had a long time to like develop taste before marking your body permanently, unlike me.
But this is your first back tattoo?
Yeah. The only other ones that I have on the back half of my body are my 2 calf tattoos. But those aren't on my back; they're on my legs, obviously. So yeah, this is my first back tattoo. I got like a big back piece.
Yeah, it looks really awesome.
Yeah, if you want to see my back piece, just go to my Instagram, I guess. Justus Burkitt on Instagram.
How was the pain?
It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too painful of an area. I have like a lot of meat back there. Like I have lots of muscle on my upper back, but also like a decent amount of fat too. So I had a lot of cushion for the needle, and it didn't hurt too bad. There were a couple spots where it like went up close to my like scapula, like my shoulder blades. That was a little spicy. That I was wincing a little bit on the line work there. But my tattoo artist, who has done most of my tattoos, has a pretty light hand. She's like not like a really heavy-handed tattooer, so like the pain levels with her are usually pretty moderate anyway. So even those scapula pieces, it wasn't too bad. And she was like, "Yeah, you're sitting like a rock," and I was like, "It's because it doesn't hurt that bad." Like, and also. The other thing that I should mention during media recommendations is that this is related to the tattoo appointment. I watched 2 movies during my 6-hour tattoo appointment because my tattoo artist was like, "Do you want to watch a movie?" She just has like a TV in her studio. She's the only one who tattoos there. So there's like not other artists to distract or whatever. So she's just like, "Yeah, I just like, if it's a long appointment, let my clients throw something on." So she's a big fan of horror movies too, and we usually talk about that in appointments. And she was like, "What do you want to watch?" And I was like, "Have you seen Evil Dead Rise?" Because it was just on one of the streaming services. And she hadn't seen it. I didn't want to watch something new during a tattoo appointment because it's not the optimal viewing experience for a new film.
I'm not gonna sit down and watch Lawrence of Arabia for the first time,
right? Or even a horror movie that I'm really interested in actually seeing for the first time, right? But I was just like, yeah, we could just go through a couple ones that I've seen before that maybe she hasn't. And of course, she's not paying full attention either, because she's looking at my back while she's tattooing it.
Yeah, one would hope.
But she was like open to like seeing shit that she hadn't seen before, or I guess mostly hearing. So we watched Evil Dead Rise and we watched The Ritual. So I watched both of those movies yesterday. Evil Dead Rise really held up for me. It was 4 stars for me on first watch. It was 4 stars again on this watch. I was like, still fucking really hitting for me.
Nice.
And then The Ritual actually worked way better for me on second watch. I had only seen that movie once before. And it's basically The Descent, but in a forest instead of a cave, and with all dudes instead of all girls. I like The Descent more still, but it worked better for me this time around. So
I think I've seen pictures or gifs of the creature in that movie.
yes, the Jotun,
which makes me want to watch it.
It's
but
yeah,
I haven't seen it.
The creature
yet.
design is far and away the best thing about that movie. You don't see a lot of it, but that's probably good, because if that thing was like on screen too much, you'd be able to see the strings or where it's janky more. And because they don't show that much of it, it looks great every time you see it. So, and it's an amazing design. Anyway, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum.
Yes. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum.
Yes.
Shaky Cam Summer Camp continues. This film.
Sorry, there was a lull because there was some kind of ghostly whispering that I was hearing in the room.
You know, I was listening back to our last recording.
Yeah.
And I heard a few noises that I think we heard them while recording,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we thought it was
some
the dogs or the wind or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I heard.
Yeah.
But something's going on.
I don't know if I got like maybe mice or rats in the walls or something, or if the window was open in the last record and we were picking up like neighbors talking outside or something. Some really weird shit. And then like the audio was glitching out too. I don't really know what was going on with that.
Have you heard from George Lucas recently? Is he still? Has he been?
It could be George Lucas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should check up on him. Honestly, we've had a few really hot days here in Flagstaff. It's been in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried that since he's been silent for a little bit, he might have died in my walls. So if something starts stinking, we'll have to open the walls up and see if the corpse of George Lucas is rotting in my drywall. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's nothing. We'll just keep going.
Yeah.
We're talking about Gonjiam Haunted Asylum from 2018, directed by Jung Bum-shik. Again, Korean pronunciations. Please forgive us.
Yes.
I also did not do a good job of keeping track of people's names.
I did an okay job.
So,
I think I'll do a pretty good job of character.
We'll stumble our way through this one.
Yeah.
Just gonna come out and say it. Huge improvement over As Above, So Below.
This movie is so much better than As Above, So Below. I think what I had initially hypothesized will end up being correct, which is that we will have increasing levels of quality in all 4 weeks of Shaky Cam Summer Camp, right? We started with As Above, So Below. Now we're at Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. And both of us have seen the next 2 movies that we'll cover, and I think it's just going to be a ladder upward.
I think so.
Yeah. Anyway. This movie's good.
This movie's good.
Yeah. I enjoyed the group of characters here, like we talked about. And also, David, I hope you agree with this, because if not, I don't think you would find any movie scary. This movie's scary as fuck. Like, if you're not scared by this movie, like, what is scary to you?
Yeah.
Right?
This movie is the type of found footage horror movie to really scare the living daylights out of someone who has not seen that many found footage horror movies, or they've just seen shit like As Above, So Below.
Right. And I've seen a bunch of found footage horror movies. There were a couple moments in this movie where I was quite terrified. Yeah. There's like a couple really, really effective scares in this movie. Even for people who are familiar with the tropes of the genre and can kind of see the stuff coming, it's still just like the way it's executed. It's like, oh, fuck.
I think all of the scares are good.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any scare in this movie that I was like, oh, that's lame.
The one and only one that I thought was kind of lame, and I know we set it up where the director has the whole ping pong thing. The one that was sort of lame to me is when some PA just throws a ping pong ball at them towards the end when they're like outside of room 402, and the ping pong ball just comes rocketing out of the hall. It like bounces around. I was like, yeah, I get it. We set up the thing that this is the ghost thing or
Yeah.
whatever. That is still just a ping pong ball, and there is nothing intrinsically frightening about a ping
So,
pong ball.
yeah, you're right. And I saw it coming a mile away when they were like, "Oh, and she used to play ping pong, and people hear the sounds of the ping pong ball." I'm
Yeah.
like, we're getting a fucking haunted ping pong ball
Right,
in this
yes.
shit.
Which, of course, we do.
But I don't know if it was like the timing of the moment. I was like, that wasn't half bad.
Yeah.
Compared to like a similar scare in Hell House LLC Origins.
The Carmichael Manor.
Colin Carmack. We have to say the whole title, I guess. When the bouncy ball that keeps showing up in that movie, and then they just throw a bunch of bouncy balls down the hall.
That is a worse version of it, but even in this, I was like, there's just no way to make someone throwing a ping pong ball frightening to me.
I think you're right. I think this movie got as close as it possibly could.
Yeah, that's maybe the only scare that wasn't scary to me, though, in this movie. Actually, there's another one which I'll call out when we get to it, because it is the one moment in this movie that made me roll my eyes. But I'll save that one for a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, by and large, I agree, though. I think this movie excels at delivering scares. And it has clearly learned from other found footage movies. This movie came out in 2018. So this is very clearly like third wave of found footage to me. And it is sort of postmodern found footage in that found footage is very established. There has been tons of found footage horror. The tropes are very well known, right? And lots of movies have leveraged them and subverted them to great effect. And this movie is kind of just learning from all of the found footage films that came before to distill it kind of into its like purest essence is kind of how this movie feels to me.
Yeah, and it's also coming after shit like Ghost Adventures.
Yeah.
And this whole
Grave
wave
Encounters.
of pseudo documentaries about.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Grave Encounters is the movie that's based. Yeah.
Okay.
When you said Ghost Adventures, I thought you were talking about found footage movies, and so then I said Grave Encounters.
No,
but Grave Encounters is a found footage horror movie that's based on Ghost Adventures. So yes, you're talking about the paranormal investigation shows.
Yeah, I'm talking about Zach Baggins and shit like that.
Yes, or for me, it's like BuzzFeed Unsolved. Like Ryan and Shane going through haunted houses.
This is like post creepypasta, post Discovery. Paranormal investigation shows.
Yeah.
And it's very tapped into that formula and that aesthetic.
Yep.
And the way that the characters speak when they're acting, for their audience and stuff like that. It's all pitch perfect. When in terms of replicating that style.
You know what else this movie is post, and I think leverages it to a more effective degree than any other internet-based found footage horror movie that I've ever seen. This movie is post YouTube and post live streaming, right? Like those things exist in the world of this movie, and I think more than any other found footage movie I've seen that utilizes like the YouTuber like influencer thing as like a character type, or the live stream as a found footage device. This film executes that better than anything else that I've ever seen. And I've seen quite a few found footage movies that lean into one or the other of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And it just works so well for me in this movie, where I'm like, it's not the Willow Creek thing, where I meet these characters and I'm like, these are the most obnoxious internet influencers of all time, and I can't wait to see how they die. There's a little bit of that in this movie, but then they also make me like them and kind of root for them, and so I like am a little like the emotional stakes are heavier when stuff starts happening to them, even though it's like these dumb internet teens who have truly done this to themselves. Right? Mm-hmm. And then the live streaming aspect of it is so fun too, because like that ends up being kind of the narrative force behind this thing, is like, oh, we're almost at 1 million views. Like that's like sort of the thing that is keeping them all in this situation. And I'm like, that's such a fun use of like the whole live streaming thing. Instead of it just being like a gimmick for the movie, it's like the narrative engine.
Yeah, it's a good excuse for them to stay in the asylum and keep their cameras on.
Yeah.
Is that pressure to get the views and get the ad revenue money.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think this opening sequence of them getting to know each other, and palling around and having fun is really key for getting you to like these characters a little bit more, and become more invested in them when shit starts going wrong.
Yeah.
Even if, again, I don't think they're really super distinct, or you get a really great sense of like their dynamic and their rapport with each other.
Yeah.
I think it does enough to get me on their side.
I agree. So basically, like, the setup here, what we have is, so there's initially kind of a cold open with a couple of like teenagers in this haunted asylum. It's in the title of the movie. So they're in this haunted asylum. They're like trying to get this door open to room 402.
We should say this is, I believe, inspired by a real
Yes.
haunted asylum.
Correct.
That has since been demolished and was on like CNN's top 7 scariest locations list or whatever, which they make reference to multiple times in the film.
Yes, much like As Above, So Below, it's based on an actual place that an actual spooky place that really exists, right? As Above, So Below, the Paris catacombs, just a real thing. Same thing with this supposedly haunted mental institution. And some of the backstory of it is true as well, or at least rumored to be true. The actual place was rumored to be a place where the patients were being like systematically abused, which is one of the things that comes up in this movie as like the backstory as to why it's haunted. They also talk about how it was like built on a burial ground where a bunch of Korean soldiers who were killed by the Japanese were buried as well.
Yeah.
So there's like a long like traumatic backstory to this building and the land that it's like built on.
I do like that, at least in the film, it gives you those backstories, but it never really settles down on what actually is going on and why these things are happening.
I like that too. I always love the haunting movie where it's like, it could be this, or it could be that, or it could be this. Who knows, right? It's just like, this place just has bad juju, and we're not going to like directly point to like, this is exactly what the thing is. It's like, no, just fucked up shit happens here. You know?
Yeah.
Speaking of fucked up shit happening here, these two teens capture a ghost on camera, and then we meet Ha-jun, who is, they call him the captain. He's like the guy who runs this YouTube channel, which is called, I already forgot it because the name is so generic.
Oh, it's like horror stories, horror something.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's funny that we both forgot it.
Yeah.
It's just like so like generic and whatever. Even though they show the logo a million times, it just doesn't stick in your head.
I like the logo.
I do like the logo.
Logo
too.
was good.
Yeah. But anyway, Ha-jun runs this YouTube channel. And he's like analyzing, he's like doing a commentary on this video of these teens capturing this ghost on camera. And he's basically like, oh, is it real? Is it fake? Who knows? And he kind of tells us some of the backstory of the asylum that we just talked about. And then he's basically like, and we're going to go do a live stream there. Like, my channel is going there to live stream from like one of the most haunted places in the world, like the most haunted place in Korea, basically. And then, yeah, we meet our whole little group here. It seems like what this is that, so Ha-jun and then his two like channel collaborator guys, Sung-hoon and Sung-wook, are like, they're all like they work on the YouTube channel together. And it seems like the other 4 are like fans of the channel who like applied or like won some kind of sweepstakes to like be part of this live stream, is what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure. It kind of seemed like it was like a collaboration, like these two channels coming together.
Oh yeah,
the guys and the girls.
Yeah, it might just be like like it's a YouTube crossover. Yeah.
But Charlotte is during this opening sequence, this opening act, she's a thrill seeker. She's gone to places like Okigahara, which the Suicide Forest in Japan.
Yes, the Island of the Dolls she's been to. So she's basically working her way down the list of the 7 most haunted places in the world, or whatever.
And she's gained a bit of fame for that. So
she's also a dancer, is a thing that's, or wait, that's the other one. Never mind. But yeah, so Charlotte is like an influencer, right? And like a horror, like a haunted place explorer. So she's like, that's her vibe. And she's also like very put together. She's like always wearing like her little heels and stuff. She's got her like fashionable little scarf on.
Yeah.
She's also speaking English a lot, which I thought was funny. Like, it's her like her like influencer personality is like she's trying to get like an overseas audience.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got.
Yeah. So she's like speaking a lot of English.
She wears heels to the asylum,
Yes.
which is in the middle of the woods.
Yes, terrible idea.
Awful idea.
But then here we also meet Ji-hyun, who is my favorite character until she gets possessed. Actually, probably even after she gets possessed, because I do like that ghost beatboxing that she does.
Yeah.
But Ji-hyun, like I said before, her vibe is kind of like, you know, she again is sort of like a skater girl is kind of her vibe, where she seems a little bit like punk and a little rude and subversive. So like she's more irreverent, and like once we get into the asylum, she's kind of like cracking jokes and laughing more than most of the other folks. And then we we also here meet Ay-yeon, who is the youngest of them, and she's a nursing student. That's basically what we learn about her. And she seems kind of like more awkward and introverted, and like she's like less at home in front of the cameras than the rest of them. And then we meet he's late. He shows up last. We meet Ji-hyun, who is the worst guy of all time. He shows up and he's like immediately just he sees that Ay-yeon is the other kind of like awkward one, and he immediately just starts punching down to make himself look cooler. He's basically like, oh hey, she's really nervous and shy, she should go home. Right, guys? I'm cool. And he also seems very awkward and uncomfortable in front of the cameras. And later when scary shit starts happening, he's like the biggest coward. Like he's the one who's like immediately like screaming and running away from shit. And he's like trying to make himself all macho. There's a very funny moment later where he's paired up with Ay-yeon. And they were on like the second floor, and now they're on the third floor of the asylum. And he's like, oh, it's colder up here. Do a temperature check. And he makes her check the temperature. And she's like, oh, it's 13 degrees Celsius. And he's like, okay. And the temperature on the second floor was also 13 degrees Celsius. So it's the same temperature, but there's a thing called perceived temperature, and it feels way colder up here. Like he immediately has to just be like, no, but I'm right about this, even though empirically I'm wrong. He's like that type of guy. And I hate him and he sucks. But it's fun that this movie gives me a guy who has enough personality where I'm like, this guy sucks. And it's not just like for regular, like annoying Jake Paul influencer reasons. Like there's a depth to this guy sucking, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm. I think the captain sucks.
The captain also sucks. He sucks in like the more conventional like influencer way.
Yeah.
Where he's like, do it for the views. Anything for the fame. Yeah.
There's a point where he's like, turn the cameras back on, and if you shut them off again, I'll kill you.
Yes.
And I was like, I believe him.
Yes. There is a very deep darkness to Ha-jun, who is the captain. Yeah. He's like something's not right with him.
Yeah. But
he really needs this live stream to succeed for some reason.
He really gets his comeuppance at the very end, which we'll get to.
Of course. Yes. Anyway, so there's like the bonding scene. They like go out to a bar. They get beers. They get pizza.
I liked the beer cam.
Yeah,
the beer POV cam. One of them sticks the GoPro on the beer mug as they're clinking glasses. That was pretty sick.
Yeah. I also really like when they're all like throwing like cherries or tomatoes or whatever into the guy's mouth while he's like backwards. He's like facing away from them. Very fun. And apparently that guy could just do that because there was no way that they could fake it. So it's just like, oh yeah, we just cast a guy in this movie who has this skill. Let's just like make it part of the team bonding scene. So that was fun. I also like when they go swimming. That's like they're all like wearing GoPros on their heads and like jumping into the river or whatever.
Yeah, there's like a inflatable trampoline or something that they're jumping onto and then jumping into the river.
Yeah, and like just the way that's shot, it feels very like YouTube, like vlogger, like extreme stunt thing. And it's also like very effective at doing the thing in a found footage horror movie where you like get to have some fun with these people and like see them happy before horrible shit starts happening to them. The scene with them at the river specifically, just you see all of them smiling and laughing and like whooping and hollering in a way where it's like it is very endearing and you're like, oh yeah, these are just like young people like looking for thrills, you know? And I think it really worked for me.
Yeah, me too.
And then they go to the asylum and set up a tent outside. That's their base camp where they're going to live stream from.
Yeah, they set up CCTV cameras inside the asylum that track motion.
They also have the EMF readers and the whole all the Ghost Adventure shit.
And they all have different cameras. They have GoPros on themselves, and then like face cameras pointed at their faces.
Yeah. It's basically like a mounted GoPro pointing directly at your face. Yeah. Which will be used to great effect in this movie.
And compared to something like As Above, So Below, which just gives everyone cameras for no apparent reason because we need a found footage movie to happen, this works.
This makes complete sense because the whole thing is that this is being live streamed and we're cutting between people who are in different parts of the asylum for the purposes of the live stream, right? So it's like, yes, everybody needs to have 3 cameras on them all the time because it's like, this is content. It even makes sense that they're filming the scene in the bar and like the stuff at the river. Because it's like, this is like, it's content. Like they're going to release this as a bonus vlog after the live stream gets posted or whatever.
Yeah. And I think they even say that like, they're filming all of the behind the scenes stuff. So I think that this movie does everything that this movie does is done better than As Above, So Below. And even the things that I normally don't like in a found footage movie, this movie just does a good job of justifying their existence. Like the multiple cameras.
Agreed. So basically, after everybody gets rigged up with their cameras, they go to like walk up to the asylum and start filming in there. On the way, they find some haunted granny panties.
Yes, the haunted panties.
Which is just a very strange thing to find in a forest outside of an asylum, is just a pair of like old-fashioned granny underwear. And they tie them to a tree as a landmark, I guess, so that they can know that this is the way back to the tent or whatever, which will come back. The haunted granny panties will return. So then they get into the asylum. They start kind of looking around. The first sort of scary thing that happens. Well, actually, before we get to that, the first thing we should mention after they get into the asylum is this incredible location that they have that they're filming this movie in.
Yes.
It's such a good location.
So they didn't film at the actual Gonjiam Asylum. They filmed at a different abandoned hospital, and they tried really hard to replicate the layout of the actual asylum with the way that they shot within this hospital. But this location immediately is claustrophobic and scary and atmospheric and everything that the Paris catacombs in As Above, So Below are not. Like they really make great use of this location.
It's just, even if no ghost shit ever actually appeared on screen and this was more like a Blair Witch, like you never see anything type movie, just the location here would be scary enough that this movie would be pretty terrifying. It's like really freaky. And there's the great shot where one of the guys, I don't remember which guy it is. It's not the captain, but it's one of the other 2 dudes from the YouTube channel, is like holding the GoPro on like the selfie stick or whatever, and it's like super wide. Those shots where you can see like tons of the background behind him are so good at establishing the location. It's like a very, very good use of like the found footage like GoPro camera.
We should mention the captain is back in the tent.
Yes. He's
basically
running the live stream.
Orchestrating the live stream and telling them when they're live and telling them what to do and stuff like that. And then the rest of the group is going into the asylum.
And so they like sort of split up. Well, actually, I think, is it before they split up that we get the first scare?
I don't remember, but the door slam is the first scare. This was really effective. Because I'm looking at this door, and I'm like, I think I see something peeking out from behind this door. And just when I'm like thinking, oh, that must be an artifact of the digital stream, watching this movie on Amazon Prime or whatever, or maybe it's just a shadow or something. As soon as I start doubting myself, then the door slams. They hold on that hallway for just long enough while everybody's talking. To give you time to like analyze the background and be like, okay, it's nothing. And then, boom, right? And the sound effect is super loud, but there's no like music sting that goes with it because they are really good
in this movie about staying true to the whole found footage thing and not adding any like non-diegetic music or sound effects. So it's just the sound of the slam.
Yeah, they are adding music to the live stream.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're hearing.
Right. But that goes away later on when the live stream stops being like maintained.
Yeah.
After like at a certain point, there's just no more music. So the door slams. They get all freaked out. Sorry, we just had a little door slam moment of our own here. There's some like weird sounds going on.
George? George, is that you? Are you hungry?
Dead silence from him. I'm worried. Hopefully he's moved on and not like passed on, just moved to somebody else's house. Anyway, so the door slams. They go into the room where the door slammed to investigate, and there's a bunch of hair hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, that's the next jump scare that happens here.
Which is not treated as seriously by anyone as I think it should have been. Because basically they all see like a ceiling tile has been moved. And there's just a bunch of creepy, gross black hair hanging down out of the ceiling. And they're kind of like, oh, is that hair? Weird. That's gross. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is the point at which I would shit my pants and run away. Like, so early in this movie. Because I'm like, no way am I seeing fucking a bunch of black, gnarly hair hanging from the ceiling in a haunted Korean asylum and then continuing to be in that building. You can miss me with that $40,000, dog. I ain't doing none of this Ju-on shit. Like, absolutely not.
Well, this is, it's revealed later that the guys are manufacturing all of this to try to get reactions out of the girls.
Right, yes. It's all, they're faking the scares for content. Yes.
So I don't know if, like, the hair was set up by them or the door slam was rigged up by them or what.
I think everything pre-seance is set up by them.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, because, like, that, I think that's what the guy says, basically, later. Basically everything before Ji-hyun gets her arm pulled into that coffin in a little bit, I think everything else is fake. So I think this hair in the ceiling is fake and everything. And even knowing that after seeing the movie, I'm like, if I didn't know that at the time, though, I'd be out of there.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd be like, no. I'm sorry, hair in the ceiling? Too much.
This is the director's office,
yes.
And it's the legend is that the director may have killed the patients.
Yes, the director was, some kind of sadistic murderer who then hung herself. There is a very creepy thing they say about the director, which I think, unfortunately, you never actually really get to see, which is that she hung herself in her office and it stretched her neck out, so her neck is like a foot longer than a normal neck. Is a thing that they like say is a legend about her ghost when you see her. And later on, the director's ghost does make an appearance, but you don't really get a good look at her neck, unfortunately. And I kind of wish we got to see that stretched out like chud neck. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, so so they're all freaked out. Then they go split up to like investigate the separate floors of the asylum in like teams of 2, right? And so this is where Ay-yeon and Jae-yoon are together, and this is where Charlotte and Ji-hyun have been paired off, and then the other 2 guys from the YouTube channel who aren't the captain are together as well.
And Charlotte sprays her graffiti tag on the wall.
Yes.
To, if you're gonna like a surefire way to piss off ghosts, is to start spraying graffiti in their house.
I just love that she like. Her tag is just like in beautiful cursive like script as well. Like it's not like a tag that is like stylized as street art. It's literally just like Charlotte. Like the loopy L's. And I don't even remember what she says when she turns around, but she says something in English when she realizes the camera is on her doing her tag, and she's like, "Hey, what's up, everyone?" or something like that, and just chucks the spray paint can over her shoulder, like so nonchalant. And I'm just like, Charlotte fucking rocks.
Well, it's her way to commemorate that she's done like the 4th location on the list.
Yeah.
And considering the other locations she's mentioned are like the suicide forest, is she like carving her initials into a tree
with the little loopy L's
in the suicide forest? That's just like
someone's corpse is hanging from a tree, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll put my little thing on this one."
leave no trace hiking, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I guess maybe if Charlotte is defacing trees in the suicide forest, I'm less supportive of her, because I do hate people who deface nature. But
maybe she left a rock cairn there.
oh no, now she's my worst enemy. I hate non-functional cairns. Anyway, but it's important to note that below Charlotte's graffiti, there's some Korean script on the wall that says "Let's live," because it's important because it will come back later. But so then her and Ji-hyun are kind of exploring their little bit of the hospital. I think the next real big thing that we get is we check back in with Ay-yeon and Jae-yoon, and they are in like the bathrooms. They're the bathing rooms. So there's like a shower, and then there's like a room with like a tub. And they go into this room with a tub, and very, very effective scare. Extremely creepy visual.
Yes.
There's like a head with hair just poking out of this tub. And I know I've been saying that Jae-yoon sucks and I hate him. However, his reaction in this moment is probably exactly how I would react to this, which is he starts screaming like a little baby.
Let's talk about the acting for a second.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think the acting in this movie is all pretty good.
I agree.
I think there's a couple moments where, again, like language barriers are affecting how I judge the acting a little bit. There's maybe a couple moments that it seem like these maybe aren't how real people talk in comparison to something like Blair Witch, which I feel like the dialogue in that is very naturalistic and very realistic.
Yeah, but some of that might just be down to translation.
Some of that might be down to translation.
Might sound more like natural dialogue in Korean, and just the translation for the English subtitles is just maybe a little janky. Who knows?
The moments where they're acting to the camera, to the live stream, are all really good. But one thing that I think is consistently great, everyone looks scared out of their fucking minds in this movie.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned this. The scared acting in this movie is top notch, which is really important for a found footage movie that is presenting itself as ostensibly true events, right? And this movie does the found footage movie thing where all of the characters' names are just like the actors' names and everything. So like they're really trying to like sell this as like while you're watching it, they're trying to make you believe like this is a real thing that happened to real people, right? Even though you know you're watching a movie, but they're kind of leaning into that gimmick. And the thing that makes that work is when the actors are especially good at playing believably scared out of their fucking minds, which all of these people are great at.
Every time we're looking through those cameras pointed at their faces and the lights are shining on them and they're screaming their heads off, you buy it and you feel it. And it really makes this movie work. I think one of the other scares here or creepy moments, I guess, I think Charlotte and the other girls, they go into the lab and there's just laboratory instruments all over the floor, and then they find like a dead rotting chicken. With like yellow tags all over it. It's a very weird and gross looking visual that sticks in your mind pretty much as soon as you see it, which is important because it's going to come back, right? Yeah, and even just the shots of their cameras panning over the instruments broken all over the floor is like really creepy visually, and there's a lot to look at and lots of detail in that shot. And in this lab there is also a doll that is in a cabinet. So they see this kind of creepy looking old-fashioned little cloth doll. So that's like an important thing that will also come back. There are photos in the director's room that they found earlier with when the hair fell through the ceiling. And they will reference those multiple times throughout the movie. One of the patients looks like he has a doll that looks like the same one that they find in the lab. Yes, one of the other patients is also the guy who comes back in room 402. He's definitely one of the guys from that picture. The guy who's like standing in the dark later. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's definitely one of the guys in the picture. I recognized him. But yeah, so anyway, so as this is all
happening, and they're all kind of getting their little scares. The captain is continuing to like monitor the situation on the live stream. I don't think weird shit starts happening with the captain until after the seance. I'm pretty sure that's what kicks everything off.
Yes.
So right now he's just monitoring it and checking the numbers and like seeing how things are performing. And he's giving commands even before they fully reveal to you, the audience, that this is orchestrated by the YouTube channel and that everything is being faked. The captain is saying things to his 2 YouTube partner guys, like, it's time for your line now, or like, move to your next mark, or whatever. So you're already, even before they say it out loud explicitly, you're already getting the idea that he's sort of orchestrating the scares here.
He plays basically like a trailer for them breaking into room 402, which he's set up as like the climax of this live stream. Is they're going to break into 402 because no one's been able to break in. And everyone that's tried has disappeared, and so on and so forth.
There's the curse of room 402, which I actually think this as an idea is very scary. It's more than just like, it's a little different than just like everyone who has gone into 402 has mysteriously disappeared, which would be very easy to make that the thing. It's like no one has gotten in, and if you try to break in, you either kill yourself, go crazy, or go into a coma. Right?
Right, that's what they say.
And I'm like, that's like very creepy and weird to me, that it's like more ambiguous than just like, oh, everyone who goes in there disappears. It's like, no, like, you can't go in there, and if you try, you might end up dead. You might just fall mysteriously into a coma. You might completely lose your mind. It feels a little bit more like cosmic horror than the simpler thing. Right? Which cosmic horror is a thing that this movie ends up leaning into more than I expected it to, and I really fucking love it.
And it's also very obviously like The Shining. Like, not only is this whole building haunted, there's a specific part of it that is more haunted than the rest of it.
It's the most haunted place in the most haunted building. Yes.
I thought that's cool.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, then they sort of reconvene after all of these minor scares for the seance, is basically
the psychic ritual, as they call it.
Yes. Where they have like some herbs that they have together. They have like they call it the subtitles translated as amulet. It's like a paper with like a spell or something, a prayer or something written on it, an invocation that they like burn in a candle and stuff. There's also really excellent piece of set design here in this creepy location. All these red strings on the ceiling with all these tiny little bells on them. Very striking pop of color in this mostly gray and black environment.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yes.
I think it was visually very very interesting, creepy in and of itself. And you know that like they're going to do something with it, obviously, but some of those shots that they have from like the CCTV cameras looking down on everyone under the strings of the red strings and the gold balls, and you see everyone underneath it. Visually, just looks really cool.
This room is just a very good set in general, and
they have like a bowl of holy water too. They light it, and then they light a couple candles. For the psychic ritual, which is just a really cool phrase.
Psychic ritual sounds like it would be the name of like a stoner, like a desert rock band. Hey, have you listened to Hash Winds by Psychic Ritual? It's a fucking great album. Anyway, so they do their little invocation. The candles blow out. The bells on the strings all like jingle all at once. And it's like, ooh, very like spooky. We've summoned something. This then leads to the moment where they're in the room with all the coffins. Something scares them out of this room. Is it just the jingling bells?
I think so. I think the girls run out scared, and then this is when the captain reveals to us that and he's conferring with the guys.
Yeah.
He reveals that they've been manipulating everything so far,
Right,
and
he's
the
like,
girls are scared out of their minds.
Great job. They were so freaked
Yeah,
out.
this is what these are the reactions that we want.
Mhm. Yeah. And so then they get all the rest of the group gets so freaked out that they're kind of like out in the hallway or whatever. And then they convince them to, continue on, if the live stream hits 1 million views, we'll all get a huge payday or whatever. So then they kind of move into the next room, which is this room that's full of coffins. Basically, they're like standing up coffins.
Yeah.
Sort of like reminded me of Iron Maidens with no spikes in them. Just kind of like big wood boxes that a person stands in. And it I guess this is like a solitary confinement type of torture for these inmates.
That's what I thought.
Or patients or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have a hole. There's like a square hole in the lid of each of them. And at one point, one of the YouTube guys goes up and does the fake scare where he puts his arm through the hole and is like, oh, something grabbed my arm, right? And we've just seen the scene where they revealed it was all a hoax. So you as the audience are like, oh, clearly he's faking it, right?
But we've also seen during this part too, we've seen that the doll has started moving or changing locations, which could be one of the guys moving it.
Yep.
Because they pick it up and the girls get really scared of that.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we have a webcam that's focusing on the captain.
Yes.
And the stove in the tent turns on and then the power starts wigging out.
Yes, which is super creepy. And by the way, I meant to mention this earlier, but when they first set up base camp at the asylum, they have like this propane stove that's used in this scare, and they're making like noodles on the camp stove. And I was like looking at this food in this movie, and I was like, I'm pretty sure Korean camping noodles would fix me. I'm pretty sure whatever Korean grocery store prepackaged noodles these are, eating those in a tent outdoors, I think would solve all my problems. It just looks so delicious while they were chowing down.
But him with this propane stove up against the wall of this tent, I just wanted to see this thing go up in flames.
Yeah, which you never do. I was sort of thinking the same thing, that he was going to end up getting torched in there. That would have been a cool way to go, but his comeuppance is also pretty awesome anyways.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, so he actually starts getting a little freaked out, but not like full on like, there's a ghost out here with me. He's basically just like, the fuck's going on? Because his propane stove turns on. Then at another point, I think before the coffin room thing, the lights go out in his tent. His internet connection craps out for a second. He has to like go back and get the live stream up. He's just like dealing with some like weird anomalies in this control tent that he has.
Yeah. The power fluctuates multiple times throughout the movie.
Which great scares in the tent with him, even though nothing's ever there. But anytime the lights go out in the tent and then come back on, or the lights go out in the tent and then he's sitting in front of the webcam and the computer comes back on and he's just lit by the glow of the monitor, and behind him it's all shadows, you are waiting and expecting the thing behind him the whole time, and it just doesn't happen. And it's like so tense. It's like so freaky and so scary. And I think it's so genius for them to not give you the thing there, because they're saving it for like the last 30 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
But it really effectively ramps up the tension and never releases it, which is really good.
And okay, like As Above, So Below, this is a movie where no one starts dying until the last 30 minutes. You know what? I don't care, because this movie does a very good job of efficiently building up tension and building up the scares throughout the course of the movie.
Yep.
Unlike As Above, So Below, which just immediately starts throwing creepy shit at you, and your brain is like, well, why aren't these fucking people dying then?
Yes. Yeah. Whereas, the ramp up is much more gradual. We're like slowly ratcheting it up. And by the time people do start dying in this movie, it feels very earned, because it's like, we've had like this like wind up, and now it's time for the like big release. Anyway, so then coffin room. And Ji-hyun, my favorite, sticks her arm in the coffin like after the YouTuber guy does it, and you kind of see the YouTuber guys getting a little worried, because they're like, oh, there's not gonna be anything in there, right? So like she's gonna just like stick her arm in and it's gonna be fine, and that's gonna kind of like fuck up our scare here, right? And so she sticks her arm in, and then really violently, very good scare, gets like pulled like shoulder all the way into the hole in the coffin. And like by the time she gets wrestled out, she has like these huge scratches on her arm. And the YouTube guys immediately, like, the movie cuts to their reactions. They are immediately like so freaked out by this because they didn't fake this one.
Yeah.
Like, now the real shit's happening. Yeah.
I think a door swings open and then Charlotte's scarf gets pulled up into the air.
That shot of the door swinging open is one of the scariest things that happens in this movie to me, because like Ji-hyun pulls her arm out. She's like laying on the floor, and then like they're all like looking at her, and then the coffin door starts making noise, so they all look at it, and the camera just focuses on it, and it goes dead silent. Like, nobody's saying anything. And the door just really, really slowly opens, and there's nothing in there. It's just an empty box. And as I was watching it, I was like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. Yeah. And then Charlotte's scarf gets pulled, and they all just like run out of that room into the hallway, and everybody starts freaking out, including the YouTube guys.
Yeah.
They're basically like, oh shit, real stuff is happening now. This is way too freaky. Like, we need to get out of here.
There's a line that I wrote down, and I don't remember who said it, and I'm not even sure that I read this correctly, but someone else comments. They're screaming like they're being chased by pirates.
I wrote that down too. So yes.
So I was right. They
Yes.
they did say pirates.
Yes, we should clarify. We should clarify. So everybody is in that room except for the captain who's at the command tent.
Yeah.
And also Jae-yoon and Ay-yeon. Who are separately like on another floor of the asylum. And I think that's where the 13 degrees Celsius thing is happening or whatever. Like, they're off on their own. So they didn't witness any of this. They just hear the people screaming. And it's Ay-yeon who says, they're screaming like they're being chased by pirates. Which I was like, I don't know if maybe that's like a Korean turn of phrase. Like, maybe that's just something that doesn't, that we just don't say in English, but is a term over there.
Okay.
Or
it's
just weird dialogue in this movie.
Or an issue of the translation.
Yes.
Maybe I don't know if Korea has a pirate problem.
Yeah, I don't really know what the state of piracy in Korea is.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's not yo ho.
Yes.
Being chased by guys on peg legs.
Yes, it was a very funny subtitle to read. They're screaming like they're being chased by pirates.
Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
Gonjiam Pirate Asylum. The ghosts just show up and they're just like fucking Pirates of the Caribbean ride animatronics or some shit. I don't know.
I feel like pirates would go to an asylum and be like, I don't love the sea no more.
That's what gets,
something's wrong
that's
with
what
me.
Gets a pirate landed in a mental institution. I used to live my life for the 7 seas, and now I prefer dry land under me feet. You gotta fix me, Doc.
I stopped drinking rum. Instead, I'll just prefer an O'Doul's, please.
Yes. I haven't swabbed a deck in 6 months, Doc. You gotta help me. Anyway, so they sound screaming like they're being chased by pirates. So they're like all out in the hallway, and at this point, the 2 YouTube guys kind of go off by themselves and talk to the captain, and they're like, "Hey, man, like, really weird shit just happened. I think this is real." And the captain is basically like, no, the other people just, like, the other folks who we are trying to dupe must have just figured out our game, and now they're pranking us back, right? Is basically what he's saying. He's like, yeah, they figured it out, and they're faking stuff. Mm-hmm. And the guys are like, okay, well, we need more money if we're going to continue doing this because we think there are real ghosts here. So they kind of pressure the captain to like give them like 20% more or something.
Yeah, they're arguing about the shares that they'll get from the ad revenue.
Yeah.
And there's an important thing to note here. The Korean text under Charlotte's tag that says "Let's live."
Yes,
they've seen it and it's changed to "Let's die," and they're like, "Did it actually change?" And we see the captain have both images up on his screen,
like from the one from earlier and the one from just now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we can see that it's changed, and he lies to them.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Because he's a piece of shit.
He's a piece of shit.
He's like, it always said "Let's die." It's fine. Nothing weird's happening. And because he's just, he's doing it for the Vine. He's doing it for the live stream. Remember Do It for the Vine? That's a
I
thing
do
people
remember
used
it.
to say.
I do remember that.
Anyway,
Getting $40,000 each for out of ad revenue for a ghost adventure ass live stream.
yeah.
That was the most unrealistic part of this film, I
I'm
think.
not sure what the monetization on like a live stream with 1 million viewers actually would look like, so I don't really know if I don't know if this is realistic in any way or not, but it did seem like a lot to me as well.
Yeah.
I was like, really? $40,000 a piece? And that's after we split it 7 ways, and presumably the captain gets more than everybody else because it's his channel. Like, I don't know. I think at one point they say, like, if they get 1 million views, the total is going to be like $500,000 or something. And I'm like, that seems ridiculous. It seems insane that it's like you get a dollar for every 2 views on a live stream.
Yeah, this seems like a movie that is like post YouTube, post internet, and it sort of understands the internet. But it's like that part in Matt Reeves' The Batman, when the Riddler's live streaming and they say something like, he's got 50,000 views, and it's like,
that's not that many.
That's not that many.
That's
just him and his Discord channel.
That's kind of just like a middling bodybuilding influencer numbers. You know, like some asshole working out at a random powerlifting gym in Cleveland who takes steroids and has like a super shredded 6-pack and like a really nice haircut. That's that guy's numbers,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he basically is like, yeah, I'll give you guys more money, just fucking do the thing, get more views. We should also mention, like, we do cut to the view counter a lot. And it is consistently going up. It's like, it was at like 500 when they started. It's gone to like 20,000, 40,000. Now it's, by the time the really freaky shit starts happening, it's at like 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, we're halfway to 1 million. Like, we have to keep going. So then they basically what happens here is, like, after the big scare in like the coffin room, Ji-hyun and Charlotte are basically like, we're out of here. Like, this is too much. This is too scary for us. Like, we're not gonna do this shit. So they're like, we're gonna walk back to the command tent where the captain is. We don't care if we don't get our money or not. This isn't worth it. So they leave the asylum and start walking through the woods. And as that is happening, there's the 2 YouTube guys are in one of the rooms, and like one of them gets the real first like scare like ghost scare that we get in earnest in this movie is one of these guys like getting pulled into the darkness, right? Because there's the 2 YouTube guys is around here. That's before the I think.
Yeah, there's a wheelchair that rolls out from like a corner, and that freaks them out. And then one of them gets like knocked out and dragged across the floor.
Yeah.
And then he gets pulled into this hallway, and he gets back up, runs towards the door, and then the door slams, and then he gets like thrown against a wall.
Launched back. It's great.
That's pretty great.
So his friend gets shut in a creepy ghost room, and he's like locked out in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's basically like, like he's gonna fucking die in there, and he like goes and finds Ay-yeon and Jae-yoon to try and like get them to help get the other YouTube guy out of this room that he's been locked in by a ghost. But while he's doing that, while that's happening, we're out in the woods with Ji-hyun and Charlotte, and holy shit, this is where this movie gets so scary. It is, if you are listening to this podcast and you are not a fan of scary movies, they freak you out. It's maybe something that you're like, oh, like maybe I can do them in small doses, maybe with the lights on. Just don't ever watch this movie, because this is one of the scariest things I've ever seen.
This will put some hair on your chest.
Yes. So they're looking for the tent to get back to the captain.
Yeah, they're wandering in circles.
Yes,
they keep coming across the haunted panties.
Yes, they found the haunted panties multiple times, so they're going in circles. They're like, how is this possible? Then they wander into an area of the woods where all of the lab equipment is on the ground is just on the forest floor in the same configuration that it was in the lab. Like the microscope is next to the same thing. It's like all in the same pattern, which immediately my cosmic horror brain is going, they've never left the asylum. They're still there. The ghostly forces are fucking with their heads and making them hallucinate that they're outside.
Yeah.
And which is shit I fucking love in a horror movie. We've talked about that before. And then so they realize that they see the dead chicken again and all that. And then Ji-hyun has gone quiet, and Charlotte turns to her, and Ji-hyun is standing with her back to Charlotte. Ji-hyun is the one who got the ghost scratches on her arm, so we're like, okay, some shit is not right with her. And Charlotte goes up to her and is like, Ji-hyun, and like touches her, and Ji-hyun turns towards her, and then we cut to the GoPro that is mounted to Ji-hyun's face, and she's like gone ghostly pale and her eyes are closed, and then they snap open, her eyes are solid black, and she just starts going, and it is like pants shitting inducing terrifying. It is so fucking scary.
They reused this multiple times throughout this movie because they knew that they had a good one.
Oh yeah.
And it works every time.
It is the stuff of nightmares. It is so fucking scary. It is the stuff of nightmares. And so then Charlotte like backs away from her possessed comrade here, and then there's like this light on her from above, and she starts like levitating, and then like gets dropped, and like everything kind of goes black, right? And then she gets up, and she's in room 402.
She finds the tent and opens the flap to the tent.
That's what it
and
is.
She's still in the asylum.
Yes. So she,
which I think was like you said, such a cool.
Thank you for
touch.
reminding me that she finds the tent, because that's the important. That's the important part, because it's the weird, like the geometry of the place starts making no sense, right? Geography, whatever it is, where things are in relation to one another. And so she opens the tent, and she's in this room where like is there already water on the floor in this one, or is that only later?
I don't remember, but she finds the doll.
Yes. So she sees Ji-hyun in the corner of this room.
Yeah.
And she like
we're doing the Blair Witch thing.
Yes. And again, she was just outside in a forest. She opens a tent flap, and she is in like a concrete room, right? And Ji-hyun's in the corner with the doll. And then she looks down at her feet, and the doll is at her feet. And then she looks up, and there is a naked guy with a big like incision mark on his chest, standing in a very, very terrifying way.
He's like pigeon-toed,
and his hands are like together. His wrists are like almost touching.
His head is tilted to the side to such an extreme angle, and he's also leaning back where it almost looks like he doesn't have a head at points. And he just like he waddles out from behind this like a concrete wall or this concrete pillar, and just stands there.
He just stands there, and they do the thing where Charlotte is moving her light, and camera away from him, and then back to him, and away from him, and back to him, and you keep expecting him to have gotten closer or to be right there, and for so long he isn't. He's just in the same place, which is like so much scarier.
Yes.
I was like, fuck. This is the part where when I was watching this movie on my couch, I had my legs up on the couch, and I had myself covered in a blanket, and my blanket was like up on the bridge of my nose. Like I was not covering my eyes, but I was like, I am so scared right now. And I love scary movies. Like this is an experience that I enjoy having, but holy shit was I almost unable to watch this because of how scary it was. It is so scary.
This is the scariest thing in the movie?
Yeah, this scene is the scariest scene in the movie. Yeah.
And to someone who does not watch scary movies, this would give you a heart attack.
Yes, you would not be able to sleep for weeks. Yeah. So eventually she turns there's an important thing that happens before this, actually. So she's turning away and trying the door, because there's a door in the room that she's trapped in, and it's locked. So she's like shaking it and trying to get out of the room, and like screaming. And then eventually she turns back, and the naked guy just charges at her and grabs her and drags her off into the darkness. And then we hold for a really long time just on like the objects that she dropped. And it's, again, you keep expecting something to like jump into frame, and it just doesn't. We just hold on a static shot of this camera where she dropped it for like a while. And I was just like, oh, fuck. So then we cut to the other YouTube guy and Ji-hyun and Ay-yeon, and they are outside of room 402.
Mm-hmm.
Ji-hyun and Ay-yeon have not known about any of the really fucked up shit that's been happening. They've been away from it for most of it. So they're trying to get into room 402 because that's what it's time to do. And the other YouTube guy comes up to them and is like, you gotta fucking help me. Like, he got dragged into this room.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta come save my friend. This is when a ping pong ball that gets thrown at them.
Yeah.
And they also hear from the other side of room 402, they hear Charlotte screaming and shaking the door, which I love so much.
That was so good.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And meanwhile, the captain is like doesn't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
The cameras keep shutting on and off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he's like, fuck
losing
this.
feeds and shit.
Yeah, he's like, fuck this shit. I'm going in.
Yep. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah. He has a drone camera. The drone camera is, oh my God. Okay. So, oh my God. He sets off into the woods towards the asylum with this drone camera that has like night vision equipped. And the drone camera flies up to like the second or third floor of the asylum and looks through a window. And we see just a body, a guy, a figure just thrashing around in the window.
Yes.
So good.
It's, yeah.
That's the other.
The payoff for that moment literally made my jaw drop.
Yeah.
But for right now, all you see is this figure just like seizing up in this window. And yeah, so he goes into the asylum. As he's entering, the door for room 402 ends up opening. Like there's a moment, I think, where the YouTube guy like runs off into the darkness. Something sort of grabs him. He runs back to rejoin Ay-yeon and Ji-hyun. And then the door to room 402 just opens. And I think they don't even go in intentionally.
They wake up
in there.
And then there's the water on the floor and on the ceiling.
That is another, like, it's such a cosmic horror thing where it's like the room is full of water that's like ankle deep or whatever. And then the ceiling is also covered in water. And there's like a girl looking down on them from the water in the ceiling. Which they make reference to. I don't remember seeing it, but they say
I don't remember seeing her.
They say she's up there. And it's just like very freaky, very like weird, kind of occult logic spatially, right? And it's just like, oh, it's so good. I love supernatural locations like this. The water on the ceiling thing is done really well. At one point, like one of the guys throws a rock like up into the water on the ceiling, and it like it sinks in the water on the ceiling and does the little ripple, and I was just like, ooh, that's really weird. And I loved it a lot. And then so they're in this creepy room, and there's like hands that are coming out of the darkness and like grabbing around their faces.
Yeah.
And at first it seems like if you acknowledge it, they'll go away, right? If you like notice and are like, "Ugh," right? There's hands coming out of the dark. Then the hands like retreat, right? And we learn later in like 1 second here, that what the hands are doing is like trying to possess you. But I guess like there's strength in numbers, and if you're like watching out for each other, they don't immediately grab you.
Yeah, they start off really quick. Like they just they wrap around you really quickly and then go away. And we see through one of their GoPros, one of the guys turns around to see if someone was behind him messing with him, and the next person is like a few feet away from him. But then the hands keep coming.
Yeah.
And again, like this is just some PA behind these guys in dark clothing putting their hands around them, but it's shot so well. They literally just emerge from the darkness behind them.
Yep.
And it looks so good.
Yeah.
And then a couple of them get possessed.
Yeah, and while this is happening, or like right after it happens, the one guy who's like not possessed yet, So I think Ay-yeon and Jae-yoon get possessed, and it's just the YouTube guy left. He's like using the night vision on his camcorder, and there's like a bunch of figures in the room with him. There's like a bunch of people lined up against the wall. I think he sees Ji-hyun at one point. There's just like all these ghostly figures that he can only see through the night vision.
Yeah, he sees the girl, like a girl at first.
Yeah.
And then the camera, and then he moves the camera. And we see that the girl's in there, and then he brings the night vision camera back up, and then there's the patient standing against the wall.
Yeah. It's really freaky.
Yeah. All the showers turn on in the bathroom. A ghost rises out of that bath, which was a really good visual too.
Yeah, and in Room 402 we get the biggest jump scare of the movie, because a lot of the scares we've described aren't actually big jumps.
Yeah.
They're just very eerie visuals that the camera sort of lingers on, like the naked guy in Room 402, right? Even him running at Charlotte isn't that much of a jump, because you sort of see him like lurch into action, and there's not like a musical sting or anything. The biggest jump scare of the movie is the two people are possessed in Room 402, and the YouTube guy is left, and then like a bloody mouthed ghost lurches out of the darkness and just sticks her hands on his face, just like grabs his face in like both her hands, and it just like cuts to the shower's turning on, this ghost rising up out of the pool or the tub, and all that shit.
So the captain makes it into the asylum. He makes it up to the room that he saw through the drone camera.
Yeah.
And looks outside and sees himself operating the drone, and then we're seeing the camera pointed at his face in night vision, and then the ghost of the director
we just see, so it's like foot level, and we just see completely silently her backwards legs, like she's facing away from him, right? So her her heels first, she hovers towards him across the floor, and it's like there is no sound at all, and then she's like right behind him.
She like bumps into him, or she's right behind him,
Yeah.
And he knows that she's there, and just like is paralyzed and doesn't know what to do.
And also he saw the figure thrashing in the window that he's now standing in moments ago. So it's also the thing of like, he knows what's about to happen, right? And it's like him looking down and seeing himself immediately advanced this to a different level of horror movie for me, because that is so scary. The thing of like, I saw myself at the moment that I saw someone thrashing around in this window, and now I'm standing in the window. It's like such a intelligent and complex and like scary on multiple levels type of scare, where I was like, oh, this movie is operating on a level that I didn't understand it was operating on. Like that moment where he sees himself piloting that drone, I was like, that's like Twin Peaks high strangeness shit.
Yeah, that's not a jump scare that you can predict in this, I don't think.
No. And it's like, oh God, it's so scary.
Because there are plenty of other ones like the pigeon-toed weird guy running at the camera. It's very cool that like they hold off on him doing it for a while, but you know that it's coming.
Yeah.
Haunted ping pong ball,
yeah,
various door slams and stuff like that. You can kind of see all those coming.
You really don't expect him to look down and see himself out of this window, though.
You got to be thinking a few steps ahead.
And it's like that like is like the pit in my stomach, oh no type of scary that like rarely do like jump scare heavy found footage movies instill in me. Like that's like a type of terror that I was not expecting from this movie. And then like so she's right behind him, and we see the angle from their feet again, and her feet just turn around, so now she's facing towards him, and he just really, really slowly lifts the night vision thing to film behind him, and she's just there, and it's not even a big jump scare. Like, it's pretty gradual how her face is revealed, but there's just like this dead ghost director face like right over his shoulder, like,
hey, what's up?
Yeah, like they're taking a selfie.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't see her stretchy neck, which I would love to see. But then she lifts him up off the floor. Lots of great levitating effects in this movie. Lots of people get lifted up, and it always looks great. And you can't, even though it's like the simplest effect to do, they always mask it in a way that it looks totally believable and real.
And the makeup and the performance on the ghost to the director, very scary and kind of burned into my brain.
Yeah.
Another really great creepy visual from this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
And so she kills him and he's thrashing around. And he's out there looking at himself as he's dying. And it's very cosmic horror and it's very weird. And I fucking am shitting my pants. Yeah. So then we cut to the last guy. Or do we cut to the stream first and then the last guy?
No, it's the last guy first. He wakes up in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And it's completely dark. And then the wheelchair just shoots him down the hallway. And then a door slams shut behind him.
Yep.
And then we cut to the live stream.
Yes. So then we cut to the live stream. And this is the moment that I forecasted earlier that had me rolling my eyes a little bit.
After you said that, I was like, I'm not sure what he means. And then it took me a few seconds. I was like, oh, yeah that.
So there is a very dumb found footage horror scare in this movie, which is as we're watching the live stream screen, the background of the live stream has been these two kind of Ringu-esque girls with dark hair draped over their faces. They're like part of the background on like the browser, and they just stand up and disappear, which I was like, all right, movie. Like
I was waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping the movie wouldn't do that, and then they did it.
It's cheesy and stupid.
Yeah.
It kind of gave me Hell House LLC, Carmichael Manor, fucking Windows desktop turning evil vibes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Where I was just like, okay, this is a very scary movie. You have successfully frightened me a ton. This is cheesy and stupid. However, unlike the Carmichael Manor, which is a movie with a bunch of scares that almost work and approximately zero that actually do, this movie is terrifying at pretty much every turn except for this. So I was willing to give it a little bit of a pass.
Yeah. We also see that the live stream viewers have dropped to like 500.
Yes.
And everyone's complaining. And so like, no one saw the end of this.
And there's even a comment that says, like, the stream cut off after they admitted it was a hoax.
Yeah.
So, like, the ghosts just cut the stream after they were like, we faked everything, so that nobody actually saw the rest of the shit that went down. There also is an important moment now that I'm thinking about it, which we should mention, which is at one point the captain, before he goes in, is reviewing the footage, and there's a moment where like everybody's standing around and talking.
Oh yeah.
And all 6 people are in frame, and he's like, but if I can see everybody in this part of the video, then who was filming? So the implication is that a ghost picked up one of their cameras and was just shooting shit for the stream, which in the moment in the movie, it is kind of freaky and scary. The more you think about it, the sillier it is.
Yeah, especially because they never really come back to it.
Right. Where you're like, okay, so I guess a ghost just shot part of this movie. I guess unbeknownst to me, I was witnessing the cinematography of Gonjiam Patient.
Well, I always wanted to be Steven Spielberg. Now's my chance.
Just as one of the inmates at this mental hospital just had a passion for filmmaking. It was like, oh boy, a camera. Back in my day, they only had the film kind. Yeah.
And then
this one has night vision.
And then I think the last shot of the movie is the holy water in the dish starts to boil. Yeah, which was. It was okay.
Yeah,
as an ending.
Yeah, and there's like all the it's sort of the Halloween ending where we get just static shots from each of the cameras that they set up, just revisiting all of the locations where all this terror has happened in silence, and you see nothing, but you're expecting to. Like you're expecting there to be a ghost in one of these, and there's just nothing, and then the holy water boils. Yeah. Hoo boy, I am pissing and shitting my pants because I am so afraid.
So,
yeah,
Justus, with your piss-filled and shit-filled pants.
Yes.
Does that mean
just to be clear, for anyone listening to this podcast, I did not literally piss or shit my pants. I watch a lot of scary movies. I'm a big boy. I don't need a diaper when I'm watching a scary movie. I can control my bodily functions. It's a figure of speech to just illustrate how terrified I was watching this film. But just to be clear, I didn't evacuate my bowels or bladder.
Of course.
In actuality. Just wanted to, for the record, get that down.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Okay, big piss boy.
Yeah.
Is Gonjiam Haunted Asylum the greatest movie ever made?
David, I didn't really know what I was going to say about this one in terms of verdict going into this record, because I was like, we didn't really talk about it, but we'll talk about it now in the verdict. There are parts of this movie that are definitely quite derivative of other found footage horror films, right? Like this, we called out like the standing in the corner Blair Witch image. There's a lot of Blair Witch in this movie. The we're going in circles even though we've been walking in a different direction the whole time thing, very Blair Witch. Lots of this movie. It would be impossible to call out every single time they're aping the Blair Witch Project, right? Now that's true of a lot of found footage horror movies, because a lot of found footage horror movies saw the Blair Witch Project and was like, hey, that was successful and people liked it. That's the formula. Like that's the template.
Why we have a billion of them.
Yes. And I don't necessarily hold that against it, because clones of the Blair Witch Project are... I think we might have a Blair Witch in the house. Keep hearing freaky shit. Little scratching sounds. Some Blair Witch scratching, or is that you, George? Are you in the wall scratching? Anyway, all that to say, I don't have a problem with Blair Witch clones when they're done well, which I think this movie is done very well. Could it be a little bit more original at turns? Sure. That is true of a lot of movies in the found footage genre. However, originality is not necessarily what I come to found footage horror movies for. And so I'm not going to like hold that against it as too big of a demerit. I think, like we talked about, the acting in this movie is pretty good. I think the characters for a found footage film are decently well developed, which is a lot of the time a weakness of the genre. I think the scares that it delivers are exceptional. I think this movie is so scary. And I also think that even though it doesn't give us really any violence or gore in any meaningful way, it's a horror movie that would feel out of place in. This is much more the like eerie kind of tingles down the back of your spine type horror movie, rather than like a blood and guts slasher and ripper type horror movie. So yeah, I mean, I had a great time watching it. I was scared shitless. You're in and out really quick with this thing. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I was never bored. It never felt overlong or like it was dragging. And I think it's pretty amazing what they managed to do with the found footage format, using all the GoPros and the drone and all these like face mounted cameras and everything. I think the location that they have is crazy and insane and so scary. And I mean, like, I'm the guy who found the footage. I fucking love movies like this, and I think you're not gonna find many that can top this one in terms of just overall atmosphere, vibes, and being scary as hell. So like, yeah, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum is the greatest movie ever made. I feel like I would be remiss as a found footage fan if I didn't give it that title, because I was scared shitless watching it, and I had a great time. David, is Gonjiam Haunted Asylum the greatest movie ever made?
No.
Yeah, that's fair. I figured you would say that. You don't like found footage as much as I do.
I don't like found footage as much as you do. This is one of the better ones, for sure.
It's good.
And I think it is quite scary. I also think it is quite fun. Quick and dirty, like you said, gets in and out at about 90 minutes, and it makes really good use of the location. I also really applaud this movie's subtlety in a lot of regard, with really withholding the scares and doing a lot of subtle stuff. There are some moments where it obviously does callbacks to other found footage movies, and I can take or leave some of those. The spooky doll wasn't really doing it for me. But someone standing in the corner like the Blair Witch Project will normally work for me pretty well. But you know, there's some really exceptional scares in this movie. I kind of wish it pushed things a little bit farther, though. I wish we really went into like Mach 10 with some of these scares at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And we do get pretty close. But I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really good. I think if you are a horror fan, but you have written off found footage because everyone has just copied the Blair Witch Project, and a lot of them are lame, which, yeah, for sure. This is one that I would recommend that you check out.
Yeah.
If you don't like horror movies because you're scared of them, don't watch this.
Do not watch this movie.
Definitely not.
Don't watch this movie if you are frightened easily. It will ruin your life.
I was not as scared as you are claiming to be while watching this, but there are still quite a few images from this movie that are disturbing and have stuck with me quite a bit.
Hell yeah.
But no, not the greatest movie ever made, but had a good time with it.
Fair enough. Next week, speaking of found footage movies sometimes being derivative, we're subverting that next week, David. We are going to be talking about the most original found footage horror movie I have ever seen. It is unlike any other found footage horror movie.
I think that is a fair thing to say, because I also think there are very few movies that I have seen that are at all like Adrian Tofe's Be My Cat, A Film for Anne.
Yeah. This one's been a long time coming. We've been talking about doing this on the show for a while, and once we put it on the episode's roster in terms of like stuff that we knew we were going to record, you and I have both just been talking about how much we're looking forward to recording this episode and talking about this movie. This movie is so special. It is, there is no other movie that is like this that exists to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I would highly recommend, if you are someone who is able to handle disturbing content, disturbing films, disturbing and upsetting imagery and narratives, I would highly recommend that you watch Be My Cat, A Film for Anne before you listen to our episode on it.
Yes.
Go in cold, don't learn anything about it, but if you're down with some real freak shit, see it and then listen to our episode next week. If you can't handle disturbing content, don't watch the movie, just listen to us talk about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will reiterate this. This is the first movie that I have felt compelled to issue a trigger warning, I guess, of any sort. If you are sensitive to violence, especially violence against women and sexual violence, stay far away from Be My Cat, A Film for Anne.
Yes.
But if you can handle that and you are interested in dark and disturbing horror films, then give it a watch. It's a real treat.
Yes. It will also be the first certified Justus Burkitt evil film that we have covered on this podcast. I think this film has deeply, deeply evil energy that I greatly appreciate. I just think this movie is so fucked up and weird, and I'm going to have such a good time talking about it next week.
Okay.
Okay. So join us next week as we create a podcast for Anne.
In the meantime, talk about the show, tweet about the show. If you guys are hearing anything on these recordings, send us an email.
Yeah. If you can understand any of these frankly demonic sounding whisperings that we keep hearing. Again, I'm hoping it's just George Lucas in the walls looking for water. But if it's not, if you can understand anything, some of them sound like they might be backwards to me.
Mm-hmm.
If any of you can suss out what's being said, let us know, because if a demon is threatening my life, I'd like to know about it.
Yeah.
But frankly, I don't have the time to scrub through all of this myself.
Yeah, we edit these episodes very minimally.
Yeah.
We're not audio engineers, so if anyone else can help us out with this, that would really appreciate it.
Yeah, and hopefully it doesn't persist next week.
Yeah.
We want to provide you quality content free from any kind of audio glitches, distortion, or voices of the recently deceased or spirits from the great beyond. So hopefully this isn't a persistent problem affecting the quality of our podcast. We're really sorry about it.
That all being said, we love you so much. We appreciate you as always, and we will leave you as always with our trademark sign off. Later, dipshits.
As you've just heard, the audio phenomena picked up on this recording are more pronounced and, at points, even seem to resemble a human voice. Was this someone speaking in the background being picked up on the mic? Maybe. The recording setup of the show was known to vary wildly in quality, especially when Justus did the setup instead of the much more skilled Podmaster. But is it also possible that this voice represented something more sinister? Find out next week on The Greatest Footage Ever Found.